If they can't finish, which would be the best thing, if they can't, then the current situation is an unstable halfway house, and the result of that will be then crisis after crisis, and you will then, it may be necessary to abandon the euro to save the broader European project, the EU. And since each of the countries has retained so much sovereignty, but given up their economic sovereignty, that is a very strange middle ground that may not be tenable, because when citizens go to vote, what do they care most about? Their livelihoods, their ability to make sure their children will get a reasonable life. But then they're told, when you weren't looking, you gave up that economic sovereignty. This tension between 21st century democracy, 21st century markets, and the slow pace of reform is what is giving rise to the problems facing Eurozone today. But the interesting thing is that Trump, while he's very critical of trade agreements, which he sees as not benefiting large fractions of American citizens, continues to support these public institutions like Social Security, which is part of the tension between Trump and the rest of the Republican Party. So in many ways, he is on those institutions. He is consistent with the mainstream of the United States and with what the Democratic Party has supported. Where he is very different from anybody else we've ever had is he wants to begin trade wars. He wants to threaten other kinds of wars. He doesn't understand how markets work or how government works. So that's the fundamental criticism, but he recognizes the importance of these kinds of institutions that are the basis of our stability, of the sharing of risk across the country. Climate change is a really important issue. This provides a market-based incentive for firms to engage, and households to engage in activities that will help preserve the environment. It generates revenues that can be used for other purposes, and every country has a shortage of revenues. And at the same time, it stimulates aggregate demand, because firms and households will need to make investments to restructure the equipment, their housing, the transportation system, to respond to the new prices. So it wins on all accounts. You wouldn't have to go back to the peseta. There could be a southern euro. There could be where you have a number of the southern countries get together, countries that are more similar, share a more common view of economics. You know, the German view of economics is different from that anywhere else in the world. And the differences are not between Spain and Germany, they're between Germany and the rest of the world about what makes for good economics. So you can get it, if you have groups of countries that think the same, have similar perspectives and similar economic situation, you could make a currency work. So you could have a currency union among those kinds of countries. And then there are basically two or three things that can be done. You can redenominate the debt, as has often happened in the past. You say debt that was payable in euros is now going to be paid in southern euros. When does protectionism grow? Protectionism grows when there's high levels of unemployment, when people feel that they are being faced with forces beyond their control, which are leading to lowerings of their standards of living. That's when protectionism grows. In the United States, the rise of Trump kinds of protectionism, nativism, has to do with the fact that we ran our economic system in ways that left out the vast majority of our citizens. The Panama Papers exposed what was going on in the secret havens where leaders from David Cameron to the Prime Minister of Iceland, Putin, leaders in China were keeping their money. Not because the sunshine in Panama or the Cayman Islands is better for the growth of real wealth, but because they wanted the secrecy for one reason or another, often because they didn't want to pay the taxes that they owed, or they didn't want to disclose, when they were public officials, the kind of information that they should have disclosed. LuxLeaks, which is the other example, was really important for Europe because it showed that Europe was not working together. It showed that a couple countries, Ireland and Luxembourg, were basically trying to steal jobs from other countries by doing special tax deals. If everybody did that, the tax base of Europe would have been eroded. There would have been no basis of being able to tax businesses to provide for the infrastructure, education. So this shows a kind of lack of solidarity within Europe. And it shows the wrong strategy for Europe going forward. And that was why it was so important, LuxLeaks. The problem is that at the very top of Europe is somebody who was the architect of this system of trying to steal jobs and tax revenues from other countries. That should be very disturbing.